Hello and welcome to Seattle Real Producers, the show. I am the host, Shay Robinson, and this is being put on virtually by Jay Coe with I'm Third Media in their studio and virtually. They do an incredible job with agent branding, media, photography. If you're an agent, you're looking to up your game, you definitely want to check out Jay and his team. They do an incredible job. This show is brought to us by Chuck Krobeck with Caliber Home Loans. He's one of our lender partners. He's an incredible human being, a great lender, and again, just a great guy to know in this industry. And we're really excited to be able to bring you another amazing podcast. And this week, I'm really excited. We are having Hao Dang on the show, and we're going to dive into what it looks like to build a team, why build a team versus being a solo agent, and what's the benefits and the drawbacks to being one or the other. And we're gonna go a deep dive there. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Hao to the show.
Thank you so much, Shay, for bringing me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on and taking time out of your busy day, Hao. Before we kind of jump into those topics about what a team looks like versus being a solo agent and everything that kind of encapsulates that, I want to have a little bit of a backstory on you and your successful career. Can you give me just a snapshot into what initially led you into real estate and kind of what got you here today?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So what led me into real estate was back in 2002, right after the 9/11 crash. I was a software developer for about 7 years. I was actually getting a haircut at my aunt's salon. And she said, how about you buy a home for your mom now that you're making this good money as a software developer? So what I did was I walked across the street, went into a boutique real estate firm called Home Realty, and went in, got my 60 hours, put in the work, and started actually 20 years exactly from this to this date, June of 2002. So this marks my 20-year anniversary. Got my license in about 60 hours, which was probably about 2 weeks, and then bought my mom her first home in November.
That's incredible. So before we kind of go into the questions, I'd love to know if you can pinpoint or give us some insight on at what point did it become I can create something that's more than just myself as a solo agent. When did you kind of have the motivation or whatever you might look at that as wanting to create a team?
Funny enough, my first thought of building a team or creating a team was back in 2013. I remember getting a call from Zillow of August of 2013, and he said, "How have you ever thought about expanding outside of what you're currently doing right now?" I was like, "Not really. I've been a solo agent for the most part for about 11 years." And I was like, okay, let's try this online lead gen. So I bought my first lead through Zillow in Kirkland, sold a house for about 900,000. I was like, hey, this kind of works. And then I was building a referral database. That was going well. And then I started investing more into the company, bought a few more zip codes. We probably received about maybe 20 or 30 clients a week at that point. I was like, I can't do this,
Mm-hmm.
And so I went out and hired about 2 or 3 agents that kind of helped with all the showings. Hired a transaction coordinator to help with all the offers, the inspections, the listing paperwork. So I needed someone to do the back end. And from there, I just started adding people to the team.
Did you, because there's obviously, and we're going to dive into this, but when it comes to building a team, was there just like an innate part of you that had this ability to kind of mentor and allow people to shadow you and grow, or was that kind of a learning curve for you?
It's interesting enough. I started my I kind of leveraged off my past from when I was 12. I started building my first business when I was 12. I had a tennis string business, and I'll kind of go back to real estate here shortly.
Yeah.
But I was stringing rackets, and I got to the point where I had about 30 rackets, and I couldn't do everything. I was in middle school, and I went to go and hire four different people. So I remember kind of going back and remembering teaching myself that. And then to go back to real estate is we had about, like I said, 20 or 30 clients a week. And the only way to create leverage and wealth and freedom was to hire more people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Building a team, the one thing I realized is if I can build a team and teach other people, which I love to do, is you're going to leverage and see other people build like um, one thing is you're gonna the one thing I wanted to see is to see other people grow and succeed, and that was one thing I wanted to do as far as building a team.
I love it. So let's kind of dive in. I know that in today's market, teams have become a very popular thing, but talking about it and executing it are two very different things. So the first thing we're going to kind of look at is, what's the benefit of being on a team, or why be on a team versus being a solo agent?
There's nothing against being a solo agent. Most agents in the first year sell about 6 to 10 homes. And the thing is, how often are you going to have that repetition of writing up offers, meeting clients, learning communities, learning those different schools, being on a team, and being in a fast environment? So we sell about 2 to 300 homes. To get to
Mm-hmm.
2 or 300 homes, you're probably writing up about 1,000 to 1,500 offers. Imagine how much you're going to learn from each other individual on the team. You talk about the collaboration. Right. So, you're learning how to write a better offer, how to read inspections. There are so many nuances to an inspection, roof, attic, crawl space, siding, furnace, hot water thing. You just name it. I mean, there's just so many nuances of learning things about the home, not to mention different personality types. And then like, what do you do like in the last year? And I'll give an example here is, prices are going up from like a million to like 1.3. You run into an issue where there's an appraisal that comes in at 1.2. What do you do in that case? You know, if you're a solo agent, like you're like, wow, I'm gonna have to make up the difference of $100,000 to gap the appraisal. Where like being on a team, I'll just kind of give a perfect example. I use a lot of analogies. Is we ordered two different appraisals. One appraisal came in at 1.2, one came in at 1.3. And being on a team, you would have learned how to like benefit. You learn how to learn from other agents on a team so you can benefit your client, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You're all being on a team also, you're able to network amongst the other top agents in the industry. You're going to get your offer more accepted more often. You're able to
Mm-hmm.
build rapport. We also have support. We have different chat groups where, this is kind of just the details of a team. Like we have one where, hey, I'm going to submit an offer on this house. What do you think it's going to list? What do you think it's going to escalate to? You have 15 or 18 other people to go to rather than just trying to figure this out on your own. And in all honesty, you're going to close more deals. I live by the acronym OPE. So, like, if you wanted to become a doctor, go shadow someone who's been doing it for 10 years, right? And you can learn everything that they're doing in a very short amount of time to see if you even want to do that. On our team, you're going to learn quicker and faster than anyone else because you're doing, 1, 2, or 3 transactions a month, and you're constantly learning from other people.
So I love the part about the shadowing, and we've kind of talked about this before, but can you give me a little insight on when you are bringing somebody new onto the team to make sure that they are a personality fit and they're like-minded and they're as driven as they need to be? Give me that kind of that view of when you are potentially bringing on somebody new, what does that look like for them and your interaction?
One of the first things that we like to do is to see how comfortable they are over the phone. I mean, 80% of the business is over the phone. So come in, let's get you making about 50 to 100 calls. And this is the people to your sphere, the people you know. And then we start calling people in our database. And then we also get you into doing open houses. Once you're able to make 1 or 2 appointments, we have someone on the team that goes out with you, helps you show. Once you feel comfortable showing, we talk about the nuances of the house. And then we take them step by step. So, right, helping them go over the contract, writing the offer, going over all the terms with the client. Okay. And then from there, if the house has been pre-inspected, they've never seen an inspection before. So we want to make sure we break down the inspection so they feel comfortable. And we're doing this in front of their clients. So we have a philosophy. I do it, we do it, you do it until you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We go over the appraisal. We have them meet all of our vendors, our inspectors, our lenders, our escrow team, and just understanding the process from A to Z, so that there is no hiccups throughout their transaction. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable. We literally have support 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. Um, why? Because this is a client's largest investment, and
Hmm.
they're not gonna purchase anything more expensive than a home. And in reality, I mean, it's more expensive than it's everything that you can imagine. So
So I imagine that a lot of people, because we're all different, they might adapt and be ready to grow or, kind of on their own pace. But have you set it up so that you can kind of figure out, all right, once this person is officially part of the team, it's usually going to take them this long to get to the point where they can kind of be on their own and they need a little bit less hand holding. Have you kind of figured that out, or does it change with every single individual?
every individual is slightly different as far as when we bring them on. Some like to move extremely fast. Some are coming off a job, so we got to be a little bit patient with that. Like they're coming off from like a full time job, and they're transitioning over. So just understanding the nuances of do they have family or not? Can they work evenings and weekends? And then from there, we prioritize what the workload is going to be.
Hmm. So, when it comes to you know, a personality fit, I know that you love people that are driven and you're not, the hand holding is really learning the business, right? But that motivation and that drive kind of has to already be there. And I asked you this before, but is there a certain type of person that meshes or fits with your team, or do the people that you bring on come from all different walks of life and different personalities, and they just end up finding a place on your team?
It's interesting. The personality type that we're constantly looking for is someone who's competitive and someone who is a driver and is a great problem solver. That's we solve some of the biggest problems in real estate. It's negotiating, understanding what people's likes and dislikes are, and the home connects you in so many different ways. It's understanding, what are you really looking for? And I've always said this: a home is, doing real estate is like a relationship. You're gonna go out and date different people. You're gonna go out and look at different homes as well, and see what works for you and what doesn't. It does, a home is like it's a sacred place. It connects you in so many different ways. Yeah.
Hmm. So with with the market that we've experienced over the last couple years, and let's say you brought on somebody a year ago, and now we're seeing a shift, and whether you want to call it softening or normalizing, does that experience for that agent just kind of have to evolve, or is it just a great learning lesson because they've been part of different markets?
I think that person who's been with us for a year is going to experience like the ebbs and flows of the business. It's a fluid market. We've had great appreciation over the last 2 3 years. You're going to understand, the home's going up. What are you doing in a market where it's escalating? Now that the market is normalizing, how do you price a home? One of our biggest takeaways from our mastermind this past week is, we're not just looking at souls in the last week, but pendings and actives, which we've never done in the past. We've never really looked at actives because everything's been sold within like a matter of 3 to 5 days. I'll
Hmm.
add one more thing for this show is go look at all the cancel expires because that shows you who's attempted to try to sell a home versus who has sold a home.
Hmm.
That's a huge part of this business right now. So, new agents in this market, they've never seen anything like this before, right? They've never seen a downturn of like 2009 and 2013. And so this is
Hmm.
going to be a learning experience. Like, I hate to say it, but I've been through most like ever evolving markets. And how do you adapt to this market? Being on a team is going to get you there. And honestly, the mindset of a downturn market right now, people are laying off, right? The stock market's dropping, and people feel like the sky is dropping. But it's like, okay, what do you do? What do you do in this market? Stay strong, understand what your priorities are, go work with sellers, get buyers to, how do you handle the objection where some buyer says, hey, I'm going to hold off? Why not just make an offer in this market and just negotiate down? There's nothing that says you can't make a
Hmm.
lower offer, right?
Hmm.
So, being in a positive environment for a new agent in this market is going to be exponential, like exponential growth. Like you're going to have exponential growth.
So before we move on to the next topic, I'd love to know. as kind of the as not kind of as the leader of of your team, how often are you having touches or masterminds or weekly check-ins? What does that look like on a week to week basis for you?
So as far as staying in touch with the agents, one of the things we do is we do weekly meetings. We do twice a week. So one, I cover like what's going on in the marketplace, and we do objections and role play. And the biggest thing right now is we're working on like market analysis, and just objection handling. Because right now, buyers and sellers are kind of in a limbo. It's like they want to take your lead. If you're
Hmm.
optimistic about the market and whether or not they can sell, they're going to lead with you. But if you feel like
Hmm.
the market's actually turning like on a downward turn and that they're not going to be able to sell, they're going to again follow your suit. It's really important to like stay on top of the market and understanding like how the market's behaving. And and in Seattle, we live in micro markets. So just so people understand, you can't put like a percentage or like just the entire real estate market on like one level. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense. So we're really,
Yeah.
we're really in the flow of how things are working in certain communities.
So the goal of what we're trying to do, with these shows a lot of the time is for agent viewers to gain value or to gain insight or to have a different perspective on something that they might have thought, oh, well, you can't do it this way, or you can't do it that way. And so looking at the next part of, kind of what we're diving into is why would you build a team versus remaining a solo agent? What do you think the major upsides are for that?
You know, building a team. I believe in other people's money. OPM is I remember that a long time ago. But why would you want to build a team versus being on your own? Being on your own, it's pretty expensive to learn from your own experiences. To be on a team, you're gonna learn from like your mentor. You always have someone to go to. It's like having a personal coach. That
Hmm.
person is always going to lead you away, keep you accountable. Being on your own, it's like, okay, what do I do today? How do I generate the next lead? How do I make the next deal? Versus like being on a team, they're like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about, marketing and try to reach out to your database? Have you thought about, reaching out to certain people on their birthdays and just touching base with them and seeing how they're doing? Um, the other thing too is like how proficient are you on going out and procuring your own listing? With us, like if you do like one or two transactions a month, I'm gonna also bring you on a listing. Like I said, you're just gonna get more proficient. Maybe you go on like 15 or 18 or 20 listing appointments with me a year, and then I let you take the lead on this. Whereas like if you're
Hmm.
on your own, I'm not sure how many opportunities you're actually gonna get because you're always constantly trying to procure it, where we actually just more or less just give that to you. So that's kind of like your
Well,
lead up on this.
I was going to say it's amazing how collaboration can really fuel, not only that day to day, but when you are having that down day and it's, from what I've heard from a lot of agents is especially starting out is it can be really lonely. It's like you study for the test, you pass the test, you do your clock hours, and then if you're not in the right environment, like to your point, what do I do now? And so to me, that there has to be a benefit there, especially for newer agents. Um, but I do have a follow up. When you are bringing on people or actively recruiting or whatever that looks like, do you ever bring on people that have been an agent for a while and they really haven't found the traction and but they can still be a fit even though they might not be a brand new agent?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love seasoned agents if we can find them. In fact, I have one individual agent that's been an agent on his own for about 15 years. And so we did a deep dive into his business to figure out like why or why not has he been somewhat successful. And I was like, what can I do with this individual? So I'm always looking for the best in each individual and seeing if I can make them better. And so with this individual, it was a matter of just staying on task and having the highest priorities starting first in the day, rather than just going to office and thinking that you're actually doing the work when you're actually not doing anything. So we
Mm-hmm.
got him doing the highest productivity items first. And what we did is we took his income because this is the one thing he wanted to focus on. We took his income. Let's say it's 300,000. So to break it down, $25,000 a month. Now, what do you need to do to get to that 25,000? So we broke it down by week, and then we broke down the weeks by daily activities. So we have a thing called DMO. So your daily method of operations is like, okay, so let's work on, for me, it's working on seller leads first. Highest, and call it bottom for apples, is find out which buyers are ready to willing to go like this next week, and then working on role playing and scripts to figure out like getting your clients to that next level to making an offer. And then from there, it's like, okay, how much volume do you need to do, or how many transactions do you need to do to transact to make that $25,000, if that's what your goal
Mm-hmm.
is. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, so and you've mentioned it a couple times now, but the role playing and the practice, writing offers, which a lot of that is a function of being on a team and getting that practice. How important is that for people to realize that, especially as they're learning when they're newer, doing scripts and doing role playing, like how big of a part is that for you, and kind of embrazoning that stuff in their mind to know that you can't just do everything on the fly, and then this kind of has to be a dialed in process for you.
For us, like we have a mentor mentee relationship. So a lot of the mentees will, start off writing offers for some of the mentors so they get really proficient. We have systems and processes where they can literally write up an offer in like 92 seconds. But just getting that repetition, I keep going back to repetition again. It's like a backup quarterback to a franchise quarterback. Learning from the best, learning from someone else has already done it. We have a concept called fail. So we want agents to fail. The first attempt in learning, we're okay with you failing and learning as long as you grow from that situation. But if you're gonna take on like if you're gonna come on this team, we really want you to like learn from other agents and along with learning from myself as well, just because I've been in the business for quite some time.
Hmm. Did it take you a while to, because when you're a solo agent, and it's your name and you're doing all the work, and then as you start to build a team and grow, was there like a learning curve for you as far as like, like you said, you bring them on, 18 to 20 listing appointments, and then you'll let them take the lead. For you as the head of the snake, did it take a little bit for you to kind of let go of that and hand over something? Because so many agents are like, I think one thing that gets in their way of even starting a team in general is because the whole notion of, well, this client expects me to be at everything, and it's my name on the on the sign. And did it take a little bit of learning for you, or growth individually, to kind of let go of that stuff, or does this all revert back to having more people around you means that you can do more in general?
Very interesting question is, I think that if you have trust in your new agents and you edify them in front of the clients that they're well educated and they're knowledgeable, I think it's an easy handoff. So like when we go into a presentation, I speak of the other agent that's with me, not as an assistant, but more as an associate who's an expertise in this area and that's going to take on this task, this task, this task. It's all about laying out the expectations to the client so that the agent can take over. And from there, it's like you kind of you're still involved, but you're letting the agent take the initiative and with the client so that they feel more comfortable moving forward. And so you're kind of pulling yourself away from the transaction while you're letting the other agent inject themselves in that situation. So that's the best way for the agent to learn and build confidence while the client feels like, hey, this person is super knowledgeable. And yes, it's nice to work with Hal, but it's nicer to work with this other agent. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
as long as they know what the flow process is in which we teach and train, there shouldn't be any issue.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the trust factor is so huge there. Not only the trust, but setting expectations, right? So, and it has to empower your team members, right? Where if you're speaking about them as an associate versus, oh, this is my tag along assistant, then that's how the client's going to view them, right? So it has to be great to have somebody like yourself who is successful and has done this for a very long time, to have them talk about them like they are an associate and they are part of this team. They're not just this person that just happens to be because they're shadowing you or learning from you along the way.
I will add one other thing too is if we're going out, let's say on a listing presentation, instead of doing like one listing presentation like once a month or once every other month, I'm trying to go out and do like 5 or 6 listing appointments with them that week, just like writing up an offer. Instead of writing up one offer every 4 weeks, I'm trying to get them to write up 5 to 8 offers per week. So the repetition is there. It's like throwing a ball. You don't think about it. You're gonna try to hit that touchdown, right? Or that home run,
Hmm.
where you're not afraid to go out and do something and fail. Because if you do it enough times, you're gonna start asking more questions. You become more proficient at it, and it's like firsthand. Like you don't even think about it. So a lot of the agents right now, they'll just go out and just say, hey, I can go out and show. I'll say, hey, Shay, can you go out and meet with this client at this time? They open the door, they go through the whole process. They feel super, super comfortable. There's no awkwardness
Hmm.
about anything at all.
I love
And if
that.
they do, sorry,
So,
and if they do
oh
feel
no, go ahead.
uncomfortable, then it's like, let me go ahead and find out. I'll get back to you. And they can literally chat to any of our, in our chat boxes and get an answer literally probably within like 5 or 10 minutes. It's that quick of a response.
I love
Yeah.
it. So I know that certain agents have pain points around around the team kind of concept. And one thing I want to bring up and I'd love your take on is the the person that you bring on as a team member, you teach them, you mentor them, they grow, and then 2 years in or 3 years in, they look in the mirror and they're like, okay, I can do this on my own now, and I'm gonna go spread my wings, and whether it's be a solo agent or build my own team. I imagine that's happened to you, once or twice. But is that ever a fear for you? It's like I'm devoting all this time to this individual with the thought that in the real estate, 2 or 3 years really isn't that long, and they could go and do this elsewhere. Does that ever play a part in bringing on somebody or setting expectations? How do you kind of deal with that?
We've had agents that wanted to leave over a period of time after 2 or 3 years. One of the things that we try to do is we try to structure different positions within the team, like a mentor mentee position where they can mentor someone else. We would pay them a small little percentage or pay them a percentage of teaching and training someone else. We try to get them into different roles. If they're just primarily working with buyers, we try to get them more on listings. If they're primarily doing just buyers again, I'll bring it on some of my flips or new construction projects. And so there are different roles within the organization as well to keep them around so that they can continue to keep growing as well. I mean, most of the time people just think of, hey, we're just working with buyers and sellers, but we're also working with builders, investors, multifamily. There are bigger and better things out there. Higher price points. You talk about the luxury market. Like to understand, I'll tell you right now, it took me literally about 15 years to understand real estate. 15
Hmm.
years to really understand all of the nuances of real estate. I mean, there are so many things, from new construction, investments to condos, you name it. It's like there's a lot to learn. The longer you're in this business, the more you're going to learn and the better you're going to get. Look at Tom Brady, for example. He's in his 40s, right? He's still
Hmm.
trying to figure this out, still trying to figure the game, and he's the GOAT.
Hmm. Well, I love the part because just about the learning, because when I interact with agents and kind of ask them what they love about it, it's exactly what you're hitting on, is that every transaction or every month or even every day can be a learning experience where it's like, I've done this for 20 years, I've never come across this. And so I think that goes back to the agent who's done it for 2 or 3 years and thinks they have it figured out. um, and I do love the fact that you do have so many different avenues within your business, that it is not just cut and dry. Okay, you're either a listing agent or you're great with buyers, because you have built such a unique business where there are all these different facets. Do you find that agents gravitate towards certain elements of the market within your team? Like, you might have somebody that just loves doing listings, and obviously it's easy to say, oh, I love doing listings because you're in the control. But do you have people on your team where they just naturally gravitate, like, I love doing condos because of this, or like, give me that flip because I love having the element of being part of taking something that looks terrible and and making it bright and shiny. Does that kind of take place on your team?
Absolutely. What's great about being on this team, Shay, is you can carve your own niche. If you like working with investors, do flips. I mean, buy a property for 1 million, put about 100,000 into it, sell it for 165, right? Helping other clients develop wealth through their investments, through passive income, through multifamily or commercial. Working with, like I said, someone who loves new construction. I have one lady on the team, she loves the luxury market. I have another agent, he loves waterfront. I have another person who loves just the West Bellevue market and loves everything in the city. Another gentleman on our team loves the condo market in downtown Seattle. I mean, that's his go-to. And I have another person, hey, I want to do it all. I want to be the jack of all trades.
Hmm.
And then it's this business is fun. It's a lot of fun. I always say, find your niche, be happy, and can you keep doing what you're doing? And that's why we wake up every single day doing work, and we wake up with a smile, right?
I love
Yeah,
it. So when it comes to taking a look outside of just the buying and selling of real estate or just being an agent, are you also coaching them on the back end of their finances or them getting into investment properties or them looking into other areas where they can build wealth?
absolutely. So agents on our team, we do put together a plan, typically after about 1 year, because they have to be in the business for at least 2 years to purchase a home. Now, the goal is to have them purchase their first primary residence if they don't already have one, if they're currently renting. So,
Hmm.
I would say probably on year number 4, uh, try to save enough money so you can buy an investment property. Um, Work with other investors so you understand what it takes to become a landlord. And then we will help you rent out the property as well. Um, and then for those that actually want to build like a mini team, like I said, we have like a mentor mentee program where they can build a small mini team. Just realize the cost of building a team is quite expensive with space, staff, online lead gen, CRMs, like you name it. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars where you can actually build a small organization for yourself within the team or within the organization. Some will try to build their own, but they don't realize like how expensive it is. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
it's quite expensive. Yeah.
And I'm sure you've experienced that as well. Okay, looking at the last part, and again, kind of through the eyes of an agent as a viewer, what would you say to an agent that is looking to either build their own, and I know we probably touched on a few of these things already, but building their own team being versus being part of somebody else's team, kind of the pros and the cons.
I think the pros of being on a team and developing and growing as a team is you're going to learn more about how fluid the market is, and you're going to constantly learn from the collaboration from other agents. Um, Building a team on your own, I would say set aside probably 6 months to a year of in reserves, all your expenses plus building a team. I mean, and see what that would look like, and be prepared for all the ebbs and flows of people leaving, people coming, handling all the hiring, the recruiting, and putting all the systems in place. That alone can take years to build, and being super organized. Nobody wants to get in or belong to a team where it's very dysfunctional. And if no one's
Hmm.
there to really teach and train and or be able to answer any questions for you when like whether you've been through those situations or not. So you got to be at the top of the game. My suggestion also is if you're going to go out and build a team, probably have at least my suggestion would be 30 million, where you're making about 6 or 700,000, where you can go out and hire a TC that's going to cost X amount. You can hire staff where they can do like a lot of the things for the company. And you also have like more of an IT person or a sidekick where they can set up all the systems and then have someone that's going to help or be involved with a lot of the recruiting. Um, so you're also setting part of your production aside while you're building a team. It's
Hmm.
it's very challenging to do both. I'll just say that. Yeah, it's not an
And
easy task by any
so,
means.
and no, and I have a great, and I was already thinking of this before you kind of touched on that last part is if I'm an agent and I'm watching this and I'm kind of weighing those pros and cons, I think one question that comes to my mind is how do I find the right person? Am I posting on Indeed and LinkedIn, or does it happen organically and you just kind of put the feelers out there? What does that look like for you as far as finding the right fit for your team?
So my first hire was mostly clients. So I just actually called around and I said, "Hey, hey Shay, how's it going? Just wanted to touch base with you. Just wanted to let you know that I'm looking to expand my company. And if you know of anyone else that's looking to get into real estate, please go ahead and refer them out my way." And so I would just reach out. I'd probably make about 100 calls and probably get like three or four or five applicants that would actually want to do real estate. I started with that. And then every time I would go out to like a restaurant, I would look for someone who's in the service industry, talk to my dentist, my pharmacist, anyone that might has a pretty big network. I would say the bigger your network, the bigger your net worth. So just really go
Hmm.
out and just network and see if anyone else might want to get into real estate. I would say getting your haircut, going out to a restaurant, real estate always comes up. It always comes up. So there's always plenty of people that will probably like want to contact you or you contact them. Yeah, it's not that hard
I
actually.
love
Yeah.
that.
But people in the service industry where they want to make more money and they want a little bit more freedom, this is the perfect fit for them. Or anyone that's looking
Hmm.
for a change of career if that's unhappy.
Yeah. Well, I think so many people get into this because it's it might seem easy, and we all know that it's not, but it does allow you to really be, to be your own boss, to have more control over your life versus, like you said, that server or that hostess who is on a set schedule and either working really late or getting up really early. I think there's a lot of parts of real estate that appeal to those people. So it's very smart of you to kind of have that outlook.
Anyone that's in the customer service industry, loves working with people, looking at homes, having a different schedule every single day. There's not one day that I've done the exact same thing over and over. Sometimes I come to the office,
Hmm.
sometimes I meet with a different client. I go to a different area and you're dealing with real human beings. It's a contact sport, right? So every person is going to have a different situation or life-changing event. All you're trying to do is just solve their problems. And if you love
I
that, you're
love
going to
it.
love this industry. I'll just say that.
So, so, and I want to finish with this. And again, I think a lot of this has been touched on, and even what you just said. But looking at starting in 2002, just kind of organically, to having the motivation to help your mom, and then being a solo agent, for 11 years, and then growing a team. Looking back on the last 20 years, can you point to one or two things that have been really like the most rewarding about building a team, or the best thing for you as a leader to help people collaborate? Are there one or two things that you can point to?
I would say in the last 20 years, seeing someone grow as an individual where they came from a place of, I wouldn't say nothing, but to give them an opportunity to be the best version that they can be and to help their family financially in real estate and to help others as well is super rewarding. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And to see them move on and keep growing from day to day, relying on us and realize that we are their lifeline. It's like, and they're helping other people and they're helping other families, you know. And like I said, the home connects every family in so different ways. You're helping one family who indirectly impacts where their kids are going to go to school, who their friends are going to be. When you have friends come over, you entertain, you have that grand party, you have, barbecues and weddings and all that good stuff. And you're creating all these memories in your home. And then you get to revisit your clients after like 1 month, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, several years later, and you see their kids grow up. I don't know if you ever get that in any other career. This is one of them where it's life changing and it's so impactful. And to reconnect with the clients like several years later, where you can actually call them your friends, to me that says everything. I would do. I mean, I would
I
do this
love
career
it.
all over again.
And I think that's the most important part when you can look back at a career or a life and be just completely content with what you've built, what you've created, and how you've done it. Um, I just think it says a lot, and we all know that we are who we surround ourselves with, right? And so being surrounded by, whether it's a great mentor or whether it's, other team members that you can collaborate with, I just think that just brings a such a value that probably a lot of people aren't aware of because they have this preset notion of, I have to do this on my own, or what we talked about earlier, like the client only expects me, and you build these things up in your head, and they might not even be real. It's just what you built up in your head. So I really love the growth element, the connection element. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you have a pretty lucky team members to be to be under kind of your tutelage and your mentorship. And I really appreciate kind of sharing your insight today and giving us a look in on what that looks like.
I appreciate that, Shay. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I want to let people know that we are going to be doing a mastermind and a meet and greet on July 21st, for the agents that are real producers and some of those rising stars. We're going to get all that information out. But How, I can't thank you enough. I'm just so appreciative of you taking out. I know how busy your schedule is, and I really appreciate you hopping on and kind of shedding some light on what a successful team
I
looks like.
appreciate it. Thank you so much, Shay. I appreciate you and what you've done.
Thank you, and I want to thank Jay and I Am Third Media. Again, they put all this on. They help us through the technology, and they do an incredible job. So again, thank you to Jay. Thank you to I'm Third Media. Thank you to Chuck Krobeck with Caliber Home Loans for sponsoring this podcast. And we'll definitely see you next month for another great
Awesome.
show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hal.